What is the difference between ego and self-esteem? How do we create self-image? In life, we are either built up or we are forced to do it ourselves. On the journey of self-worth, the analysis of oneself in nature externally is often that of suffering. That is to say that most of your self-image and most of your self-actualization comes from observing yourself and how you interact and react to your external environment. I believe that once you're watching who you are and watching how you interact with things, that's the most accurate, most pure, like, in terms of like not how you are reacting, but how you feel about the reaction. I feel like that's the most pure form of like self you can grasp at any given moment. That's like the most akin to your current self because it's not grounded in like real interaction. And it's also not a muttering of like the ego in the mind. It's simply just you feeling or you being in that moment. I find it very funny how most people in this world have super large egos but super low self esteem. It is utterly humorous how they both tend away from each other. They both are conditionally working against one another. Your esteem stops you from doing, or it takes away what you think you are unworthy of doing. Like, it makes you think that you're not able to do these certain things, so you're no longer able to do them because he who thinks he can and he who thinks they can are both right. Like, not thinking you're worth getting something or being insecure about your own ability. It is a bitter poison that we drink constantly to lower the expectation of ourselves, or to ourselves, and kind of exist within some type of null comfort. But unfortunately, this lowering of expectation and lowering of self worth or how you view yourself is ultimately more stressing than if you had posited the opposite. Now, for ego, or more so what I think identification to be, this whole premise of this I feel, this I am, or not I am, but this I feel or I. This is the root of feeling because of things that are, beyond our control. It's the thing that conditions us to feel when it's no longer us and kind of putting yourself in that place where everything is in reference or personal to your whole identification.
That's profound.
It is the bandage we place on ourselves in order to protect what we think ourselves to be. A large ego will not allow you to not take things personally. It's a view from the reference, or more so, a view from the experience, simply being perceptive without any reference to, anything real. It causes us great harm, but is a necessary something we must possess in order to be ourselves, which is why it makes no sense. They hold each part of themselves back from becoming healthy. Those with an ego of perfection are the ones subject to the most pain, for a glass negligence of its own fragility is prone to take jumps that will cause it to break. That is to say, those who think they are something great are going to take these actions that will cause them to see otherwise. Um, we should build the image that we have of ourselves with our own hands. We should also include all of our flaws and imperfections because when we fail to, or when we choose to keep those out willingly or ignorantly, we're more prone to be impacted by them. It's like, a, how would I describe this? It's like if you were unaware that, it's like a person whose breath stinks. All right, they if they're unaware, they're going to be more impacted by their stank breath than if they were more aware of it, because they would tend to not talk as much or not get as up close to people. It wouldn't affect their environment as much if they proceeded with caution, knowing of their flaws. I think that sometimes flaws are like little things that help us define how we interact with our society. Now, that's not to say that we think flaws are like set in stone things, Rather, we should be aware of them rather than ignorant of them so they can change. When you're being ignorant of your own flaws and your own imperfections, it makes it even more difficult to try to heal them and fix them. Because what are you fixing if you're being ignorant of its existence in the first place? I think esteem is like a mental state characterized by this whole idea of I am. It's I am this way, I am a certain way. It's that esteem that is holding you back. And the ego is like muttering with that or against that in some ways because it's like I feel. It's I am and I feel, and they're characterized through each other. The esteem is telling you I am a certain way, I am this, I am. And then because of that, your ego is like, nah, I feel the opposite. You know, people with big egos are like, oh no, I feel this way, and that's the right way to feel. It's without reference to any fact. It's they're letting them their whole perception and association with their identity and trying to gauge how they think they should feel or how this I should feel rather than how things actually are. It's without reference to the present. It's without reference to what's grounded in fact, or there is no truth, but what's grounded in what we know is fact, rather than, um, you know, just being. It's the ego that tells you when to take things personal, you know? It's not the esteem that tells you, oh, this is personally me. It's your ego that tells you when to take things personal. And we kind of attribute some of those things because when we do take things personal, it's often negative. We hardly ever take positive things personal. Like, if someone holds the door open for you, you're not like, oh yeah, I'm a good person because someone held it open for me. But if someone doesn't, you're like, dang, they really think I'm not worth holding the door open for. It's those kind of things and those kind of the consciousness we give to the negative possibility or the negative frameworks of what we think to be that ultimately limit our perceptions. It's not that things are always negative, it's just that you're only looking at the negative personal, attribution. Nothing, I think, in this life is truly personal. Everybody is going through their own internal warfare and they tend to project their own internal issues onto those around them. But that doesn't make it personal. And this type of thinking can only be halted by your own consciousness, your own willful rejection of, I don't want to say rejection of the ego. The ego is a necessary something, it's identification. But rejection of the mutterings, rejection of the narcissism in a way, the thinking that everything is about you. And I know that takes away some people's like self-importance, but it also takes away your whole idea of like self-stress and self-degradation. It's this identification with everything that's going on around you that limits you from seeing the things that go on around you. The only one who can truly support how we view ourselves in our mind is ourselves. So it's in our hands to create the change that creates who we are.